One Piece live-action Season 2 is over, but the real big discussion starts now. Because when I look at the comments under our One Piece videos, the discussions on Reddit, and what people are saying on social media, I can clearly see what fans expect from Season 3. Everyone may be talking about different details, but overall, the things people want to see are coming together around the same points. So in this video, we're going to talk about the 5 things fans want to see the most in Season 3. Let's get started. Number 1. Alabasta should not be rushed. I think the biggest expectation fans have for One Piece live-action Season 3 is very clear. The Alabasta arc should not be rushed. And honestly, I completely agree with that. Because Alabasta is not just another island adventure in the One Piece story. This is the arc where the Straw Hat crew gets involved in a major national crisis for the first time, finds itself in the middle of a political war, and fights not just for their own dreams, but for the future of another people. That's why the biggest task of Season 3 should not be to quickly move through this story, but to truly make the audience feel it. In the first 2 seasons, Netflix's live-action universe slowly expanded. East Blue introduced us to the characters. The second season will open the door to the Grand Line, but Season 3 now has to show just how big and dangerous this world can be. Alabasta is the perfect test for that, because here, there isn't just a villain, just a fight, or just an adventure. There is a country suffering from drought, people being turned against each other, a manipulated kingdom, and a much bigger threat controlling everything from behind the scenes. That is exactly what fans want to see. Alabasta should not feel like a stop that gets rushed through in just a few episodes. I especially want to see this done right, because the real strength of Alabasta is not only in the final battle, but in the atmosphere built on the way to that battle. The desert journey should feel exhausting. Vivi's desperation should feel real, the suffering of the people should be visible, and the audience should understand why the Straw Hat crew becomes so attached to this country. If the season only focuses on the big fights but fails to show the heart of Alabasta, I think many fans will feel like something is missing. Because what makes Alabasta special is the emotional bond that builds on the way to the finale, just as much as the final battle itself. We need to feel throughout the season why Luffy is willing to go so far for Vivi, why Nami forms such a strong bond with her, and why the crew starts treating this kingdom like it is their own problem. If Season 3 truly gives Alabasta the time it deserves, it won't just be a good One Piece season. I think it could become the strongest season of Netflix's live-action adaptation so far. Number 2. Crocodile needs to be a real nightmare. Now let's talk about maybe the most critical character of Season 3, Crocodile. Fans have huge expectations for Crocodile, and honestly, he is one of the things I'm most curious about in the 3rd season. Because Crocodile is not just another villain standing in Luffy's way. He is the first villain who truly makes Luffy feel helpless, someone Luffy cannot easily overcome just by throwing punches, and a villain who dominates the entire story with both his intelligence and his power. That's why in the live-action version, it won't be enough for Crocodile to simply look cool. The entire atmosphere needs to change the moment he enters a scene. The most important thing about Crocodile is this. He is not scary because he shouts or constantly shows anger. On the contrary, he is scary because of how calm he is. He feels like someone who has planned everything in advance, predicts everyone's moves, uses people for his own benefit, and does all of this while almost never panicking. I especially want this side of him to be handled very well. Because if Crocodile is done wrong, the entire weight of Alabasta becomes weaker. But if he is done right, he could become the strongest villain Netflix's One Piece has had so far. His fights with Luffy are especially important here. What fans want to see is Luffy struggling against Crocodile not only physically, but also psychologically. Because in this arc, Luffy enters with that "I'm going to win" energy for the first time and then crashes into a wall. Crocodile underestimates him, completely overpowers him, and shows Luffy that the Grand Line is a completely different place from the East Blue. I think if that feeling is delivered strongly in live action, Luffy's final victory will feel much more satisfying. Honestly, I don't just want Crocodile to be a good villain in Season 3. I want him to be a character the audience remembers for a long time. His control over Alabasta, his power within Baroque works, the things he does to Vivi's family and her people, all of it needs to feel like a real threat to the audience. Fans want to see that too. Crocodile should not just be powerful. He should be dangerous, intelligent, charismatic, and disturbingly calm. If they can pull that off, the level of Season 3 will automatically rise. Number 3. Vivi should be the heart of the story. One of the things fans want to see the most in Season 3 is Vivi's story being handled properly. And I completely agree with that, because without Vivi, the emotional weight of Alabasta would feel incomplete. Vivi is not just an important character in this arc. She is actually the heart of the entire season. Without her story, Alabasta would simply be an adventure about saving a country. But because of Vivi, this story becomes personal. We see the pain of that country through her eyes, and we understand through her why this people is worth fighting for. The best thing about Vivi is that she is not just a princess waiting to be rescued in the classic sense. She is already fighting to save her country, putting herself in danger, infiltrating the enemy when necessary, and risking everything for her people. Season 3 of the live action needs to show this very clearly. Vivi should not feel like someone simply walking alongside the Straw Hat crew. She should feel like the real reason they become emotionally connected to this fight. I especially want to see both her strong side and her vulnerable side at the same time. I think the bond between Vivi and the crew should slowly grow throughout the season. Especially her friendship with Nami, the trust Luffy gives her, the way Zoro and Sanji act while protecting her, and the warmer bond Usopp and Chopper build with her. All of these are important. Because for the final farewell scene to work, this friendship first needs to be truly established. If the audience does not feel that Vivi became part of this crew, the farewell scene will not reach the same level of power. And of course, that famous farewell moment. I think this could be the most emotional scene of Season 3. The question of whether Vivi will join the Straw Hat crew, her responsibility to her country, and the bond she has built with the crew could create very powerful drama. What fans want is for this scene not to be rushed. And honestly, I want this scene to be a truly heartbreaking final moment. If handled correctly, Vivi's farewell could become not just the season finale, but one of the most unforgettable moments in the entire live-action series. Number 4. Ace, Robin, and iconic moments need to shine. The Alabasta arc is beloved not only because of its big story, but also because of its iconic characters and moments. That's why another major expectation fans have for Season 3 is for these special moments to be used correctly. Ace's appearance, Bon Clay's energy, Robin's mysterious presence, Sanji's Mr. Prince role, Zoro's fight against Mr. 1, Nami's growth during battle. These are all things fans have wanted to see for years, but the important thing here is not just including these scenes. It's adapting them with the right feeling. Ace, for example, could be very important for Season 3, because Ace does not only appear as Luffy's brother. His arrival opens a much bigger door into Luffy's past and family. I especially want the brotherly energy between Ace and Luffy to feel natural. Their relationship should feel warm, fun, and real. Because for fans who know Ace's importance in the future, this introduction scene will not just be a cool character entrance. It will be the first step in a much bigger story. With Bon Clay, there is a completely different kind of expectation. The balance between the character's comedic side and emotional side needs to be handled correctly. If Bon Clay is shown only as a funny character who does strange things, something will be missing. Because One Piece fans know his heart, his loyalty, and the friendship theme that will gain much greater meaning later on. Honestly, I think Bon Clay could become a very beloved character in live action. They just need to write him not only as comic relief, but as a character with a real soul. Robin and Sanji's Mr. Prince moment are just as important. At first, it should not be completely clear whether Robin is trustworthy, dangerous, or something else entirely. Her mystery needs to be protected. On Sanji's side, the Mr. Prince moment is a perfect opportunity to show his intelligence and his value within the crew. Personally, this is one of the things I want to see the most. Because Sanji is not just a character who fights or flirts. He is someone who makes the right move at the right time and saves the crew with his intelligence. What fans want is this. These iconic moments should not feel like simple anime references. They should naturally, powerfully, and memorably exist within the story. Number 5. Bigger battles, stronger emotions. The final major expectation for Season 3 is this. Everything needs to feel bigger, and I think that is absolutely the right expectation. Because Alabasta is the point where One Piece live action moves from smaller-scale adventures into large-scale wars. This is not just a town, a restaurant, or a small island. This is an entire kingdom. There is a civil war. There is a secret organization. There is a warlord-level enemy. So the visual and emotional scale of Season 3 also needs to be bigger than the previous seasons. Fans especially want the desert atmosphere to feel powerful. Alabasta should feel hot, dry, dangerous, and exhausting. The characters should not look like they are simply walking from one place to another. They should look like they are truly going through a difficult journey. Sandstorms, empty cities, thirst, the desperation of the people, and the approaching weight of war should all feed into the atmosphere of the season. I think this side is very important too. Because if the world of Alabasta does not feel real, the final battle will not feel big enough either. Expectations are also very high on the action side. Luffy and Crocodile's fights, Zoro's struggle against Mr. 1, Sanji's own fight, Nami becoming more active, Usopp and Chopper fighting together. All of these need to be handled with good choreography and strong effects. But I think the most important thing here is not just making the fights big. Every fight needs to be connected to character development. Because in One Piece, battles are not just about punches and swords. Every fight is a test for a character. And most importantly, behind all of this big scale, there needs to be real emotion. Bigger effects, bigger sets, and larger battle scenes are not enough on their own. The audience needs to worry about Vivi, feel that Luffy could lose, and understand why the Straw Hat crew is willing to go this far for this country. That is exactly what I want to see the most. A season that looks big, but also touches the heart. If Season 3 is both visually huge and emotionally powerful, Alabasta will not just be a well-adapted arc. It will be the season where Netflix's One Piece truly levels up. Overall, expectations for One Piece live-action Season 3 are incredibly high, because Alabasta will be the point where the story grows not only for One Piece fans, but also for live-action viewers, where the characters take on greater responsibilities, and where the real danger of the Grand Line is felt. If Netflix gives this arc the time, emotion, and scale it deserves, Season 3 could become one of the most unforgettable chapters of the series. Now it's your turn. What do you want to see the most in One Piece live-action Season 3? Do you want Alabasta to be handled as a full season, Crocodile to be darker and more terrifying, Vivi's emotional story, or iconic moments like Ace, Bon Clay, Robin, and Mr. Prince? Don't forget to write your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, you can leave a like and subscribe to the channel. As new One Piece updates arrive, we'll keep talking about them. See you next time.